Welcome to the main event. This is True Ring News Network, your ringside access to WWE news and drama. Subscribe and let's rumble. AEW Blood and Guts 2025 delivered one of the most unforgettable and emotional endings in women's wrestling history. Mercedes Moné stood victorious, while Toni Storm made the ultimate sacrifice inside that unforgiving steel cage. It wasn't just a match. It was a collision of loyalty, pain, and love that left the wrestling world stunned. The battle that redefined chaos, AEW's Blood and Guts match for the women's division, was everything fans could have dreamed of. Brutal, breathtaking, and drenched in emotion. 10 warriors stepped into the unforgiving double-ring steel structure, each knowing only 5 would emerge victorious. On one side stood Mercedes Moné's menacing faction, the self-proclaimed Triangle of Madness, joined by powerhouses Megan Bayne and Marina Shafir, a trio built on dominance and calculated destruction. Across from them, the valiant alliance of Toni Storm, Chris Statlander, Willow Nightingale, Harley Cameron, Mina Shirakawa, and the returning Jamie Hayter embodied heart, unity, and pure resilience. When the bell rang, chaos took center stage. Steel met skin, screams filled the air, and the atmosphere pulsed with adrenaline. The ring became a war zone where grudges collided, friendships were tested, and every second felt like a lifetime. It wasn't just about winning, it was about survival, redemption, and legacy. By the time the dust settled, Blood and Guts had rewritten what it meant to fight for glory in AEW's women's division. The unforgiving nature of Blood and Guts. No wrestling match embodies brutality and beauty quite like Blood and Guts. Every clang of the steel cage, every crash through tables and glass, tells a story of sacrifice. It's not just a match. It's an emotional battlefield. AEW's version of this carnage-fueled spectacle has always been less about victory and more about endurance. Inside that cage, everything becomes a weapon, chains rattle like battle drums. Chairs twist under pressure, and bodies are thrown with reckless abandon. The women of AEW gave everything, suplexing each other into the cage walls, diving from platforms, and fighting through exhaustion that blurred the line between pain and pride. By the final bell, there were no heroes or villains, only survivors. Bloodied, bruised, but unbroken, they proved why Blood and Guts stands as AEW's most visceral test of will. It was chaos incarnate, a symphony of violence that redefined women's wrestling forever. Mercedes Moné and the Triangle of Madness. Take control. From the early moments, Mercedes Moné's squad dictated the pace. The chemistry between Sky Blue and Julia Hart was chillingly effective. A blend of agility and ruthless aggression. Megan Bayne was the anchor, tossing opponents like ragdolls. Marina Shafir's cold precision made her attacks feel surgical. At the heart of it all was Moné, calm and calculated, directing traffic, while reminding everyone why she's one of the most dominant women in modern wrestling. Their plan was clear: isolate, punish, and break their opponents piece by piece, until hope seemed impossible. The rise of resistance. But the opposing team refused to crumble. Chris Statlander's powerhouse energy shifted the match's tempo when she slammed Sky Blue into the steel wall with such force that the entire cage seemed to shake. Willow Nightingale and Harley Cameron's double-team offense created openings that allowed Toni Storm to regroup. Together with Statlander, Storm executed a massive double suplex onto Megan Bayne that sent the arena into chaos. The crowd roared with electricity, a moment that felt like the turning tide. For a brief instant, it looked like Storm's side had found their rhythm, united by heart over brutality. The breaking point. As the match dragged on, fatigue, blood, and desperation blurred the lines between heroes and villains. Mina Shirakawa, already battered, tried to lock in a figure-4 leg lock on Megan Bayne in a desperate attempt to swing the momentum, But Marina Shafir intervened with cold efficiency, breaking the hold and sending Shirakawa crashing into broken debris. The audience gasped as Mina screamed in visible pain, clutching her leg and shoulder. That moment marked the emotional turning point. It wasn't just about competition anymore, it was survival, and one wrong move could mean real damage. Toni Storm's sacrifice. The haunting silence that followed was deafening. Mercedes Moné and her crew surrounded Toni Storm, demanding that she surrender to save her friend Mina Shirakawa from further agony. Storm, torn between loyalty and pride, stared across the ring at her fallen teammate. Her hands trembled as she glanced at the carnage around her. Her team broken, her spirit tested. Then, with tears streaming down her face, she screamed, "I quit!" The bell rang instantly. The audience sat in shock. Monet stood tall, victorious, while Storm collapsed beside Mina, cradling her in heartbreak. It was a moment of raw humanity that transcended wrestling. The aftermath. A queen crowned and a hero broken. As medics rushed into the cage, Mercedes Moné, drenched in sweat and blood, raised her hands high and declared this the start of her new era. The image was chilling, a queen bathed in chaos, triumphant yet merciless. Meanwhile, Toni Storm refused to leave her fallen teammate's side, whispering apologies as Mina was stretchered out. The visual contrast between Monet's cold dominance and Storm's emotional breakdown hit fans hard. Social media exploded instantly, with hashtag #ThankYouToni and hashtag #MercedesEra trending worldwide. Fans praised the storytelling, but couldn't shake the emotional weight of Storm's decision. A new era for AEW's women's division. The ripple effects of this match will be felt for months. Mercedes Moné has officially cemented her status as the most dominant force in AEW's women's division, but at what cost? Her alliance with the Triangle of Madness looks unshakable, a faction built on fear and control. Meanwhile, Toni Storm's decision to surrender introduces a new emotional layer to her character. It wasn't cowardice, it was compassion. And in wrestling, that kind of vulnerability can be even more powerful than victory. The story now becomes, how does Storm rebuild from this? Can friendship survive in a world as ruthless as AEW? Final thoughts. Love, loyalty, and legacy, AEW. Blood and guts. 2025 was more than just another brutal match. It was storytelling at its finest. Mercedes Moné proved that dominance can come at a moral cost, while Toni Storm showed that sometimes love and loyalty weigh heavier than championship gold. It was raw, messy, emotional, and unforgettable. As fans, we witnessed not only an incredible spectacle, but also a human story, one about sacrifice, resilience, and the emotional toll of competition. Whether you cheered for Moné or cried for Storm, one thing is clear. Women's wrestling has never been more powerful, more layered, or more real.